Hey, friends, it's Davin, and I'm back for another episode of the Free Your Voice, Free Your Life podcast, coming to you from downtown Chicago, where we are experiencing real winter, like hardcore, dead of winter situation. 4 degrees Fahrenheit this morning. Um, Freeze your face when you go outside. It's barely warmed up at all. I've got a cup of tea in my hand, which is soothing and wonderful. And a great reason to sit here in my studio and have a conversation with you. I know it's been a while since I dropped an episode, and apologies for that. I have been working on something that I'll share with you more about, and that actually applies to a little bit about what I want to bring up today in this conversation together. But specifically, last week I was in Tucson, Arizona, which is maybe the reason that the cold weather feels particularly painful. Tucson was gorgeous, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, sunny, amazing. But I made my way there to bring Voxus, my I struggle to even know how to say this quickly what it is anymore. I used to call it a corporate team building experience, but it's not. What I can best describe it as is an immersive keynote experience. It's like a keynote speech that incorporates the audience and gets them singing. But if you're not familiar, you can learn more at Voxus, VOXUS, voxusexperience.com. But I had the great privilege and honor to go to Tucson and meet with some HR C suite executives who are on retreat together and bring them. Well, actually, I closed out the conference, which was wonderful and exciting, but bring them something quite different from everything else that they had been immersed in during their time there. And can I just say they were awesome? Like, so good. Really scared. I could see the fear on some of their faces, but then they rose to the challenge and it was so magical. And within just the first few moments of the experience, I saw folks wiping tears away from their eyes, and that is what I'm there to do. I mean, not specifically make people cry, but be in touch with their humanity, because these business conferences, I'm not gonna lie, they can be so dry, so heady, so many ideas, not a lot of body. And so when I can come in there and get people singing together, I know it has the possibility to really inspire real change. But here's what I want to share with you, and I'll share with you maybe more about this in a bit. I've been doing some version of Voxer since 2016. I put it to bed for quite a while and came back to it over the last year and a half or so. And it's been really exciting. But one of the things I've become aware of is that I'm a pretty good improviser. It's actually something I pride myself on. It's something I practice, something I work with a lot. And I wing a lot. Like even these podcast episodes, I wing them. I have a topic, I think about it. It's not like I'm coming out of nowhere, but I generally, nothing's scripted here. I'm just talking, and that's something I'm quite comfortable doing. But I'm aware that there are pitfalls to winging it, in that there's value in understanding the arc of what it is that you're trying to communicate, and the themes and the jokes and the stories that land and the ones that don't. And so over the last couple of months, it's really come to my attention that the talk component of the Voxus experience, I need to dial it in. I have wanted for myself to crush it. Like, that's what I keep saying. I just want to go in and feel so confident and secure in my words. And I just want to feel like I can connect with the people. And by the way, one of the fun things about the talk that I give is that the audience actually creates something like a soundtrack throughout the talk. They are asked to intersperse some of the things I'm saying with various types of singing. It's all really easy. It's really simple. It's fun. Everyone can do it. I've never seen anything quite like it. But I've had this idea for a while. I've really wanted to get this ready for this talk in Tucson. And wouldn't you know, the actual inspiration to make it happen didn't really hit me until about a week before I went. Isn't that how it works? The pressure. But about a week before, I had a very clear vision for how I wanted to reassemble the talk, knock it out in a scripted way, just get it in my body, get it in my bones, get it in my mouth. And so I went into a hole. I dug deep And I stood in my studio for hours at a time and talked to myself, locked this thing in. It was so much work. But then by the time I got to Tucson, I really felt great about what it was that I was able to do. And it was a small, intimate group. And I think we had a really special experience together. I don't know. I'm excited. I've never seen anyone do anything quite like this before. And I think it's unique. I think it's unique in the landscape. I know that so many of these conferences are lacking embodied experiences. And so I'm just anxious to get out there and do this a lot more. It's one of the things I'm really feeling a lot of excitement and passion around right now. So I don't know if you're connected to someone who does corporate team building or leadership development or executive training or you name it, check out voxusexperience.com. And please refer me to other people. I'm excited to do this. I have a couple opportunities coming up that are really cool. Another conference in Maine for HR executives. And then I'm going to be working with a bunch of bankers in March. And yeah, there's stuff happening, but I'm really anxious to do it more and excited about what I have to offer. There's a lot more personal narrative in it than I have done in the past. And yeah, I think it's good. I think it's meaningful. I think it moves the needle. And that's what's exciting. So, anyways, deeply, deeply entrenched in that. The other thing is the reset. Wanted to remind you if you're in or around Louisville or Philadelphia, or if you know others that are, I'm going to be in Louisville on um, March 1st and at the Kentucky Performing Arts Center. And then I'll be at the Kimmel Center in Philadelphia on March 29th. And actually, it looks like there's going to be a circle singing workshop the day after the gig in Philadelphia, which I'm stoked about. So more details on that to come, but feel free to check out the Reset Sound Experience. That's my immersive sound healing experience that I travel all over the country and bring to different venues to learn more about those. And then finally, if you're in or around Chicago, March 16th, I'm going to be bringing a spring equinox sound healing experience to one of the best venues in the city. It's called Epiphany Center for the Arts. It's a converted cathedral. It suits my work perfectly. I did it last year for the first time, and it was very exciting. I really loved it. The sound system's epic. The space is epic. The lights were great. The vibe is good. So that's going to be March 16th. Those tickets are on sale now. You can learn more at davinyoungs.com or find me on Instagram at davinyoungs. Which, by the way, those are all spaces and places that you can find out about any of this stuff that I'm talking about. Okay, that's enough of the plugs. Let me tell you about this idea that I have. It's called two choices. And this is an idea that actually probably stems from Buddhist philosophy in some ways. But I want to apply it today to my journey and your journey, particularly around the themes of creativity, performing, and healing. Personal growth, transformation. Let me start by telling you I have a fatal flaw as a creator. Maybe it's not fatal, but I would say that it's one of the things that keeps me unhappy at times. And that is this sense within me that I should be further along than I am. My friend once told me I have this sort of spirit of put me in, coach. Like I'm ready to get in the game. Let's go. Let's go. And it's very true. And the good side of this, the non-shadow side of this is that I'm ready to go. I will say yes. I will do things. I rarely hesitate when I'm ready to go. The bad side of it is, the shadow is that I'm often frustrated with myself, with the universe that I'm not further down the road than I am currently. A lot of my spiritual practices have been geared toward conditioning myself to be able to stay more present to where I am, to be able to find joy and meaning and purpose and value in the struggles and the hardships and the frustration, and also just to really be present to the joy of where I am right now, even if it feels absent. But I share this with you because, first of all, maybe you can relate. But second of all, I want to ask you a question that will illuminate this idea of two choices. And the question is very open ended. So I invite you to take it wherever you want. But I want you to ask yourself, where are you in your journey right now? Like you could ask yourself, where am I in my voice journey? Feel free to get specific. Like, how am I singing? How am I using my voice? How am I performing right now in relationship to where I want to be and also in relationship to where I've been? Or where are you in your creative journey in general? Where are you in terms of making things, creating things, performing, putting yourself out there, painting, dancing, singing? I don't know, skydiving. Skydiving a creative act, maybe. But where are you? If you really zoomed out, if you just weren't looking at the specific brushstroke on the painting, but you stepped back and you looked at the whole image, where are you in it? Or if you were operating a drone and you zoomed out and you saw your position in life, where are you? What do you see? A lot of times we're afraid to ask ourselves this. We're afraid to actually really contemplate this. We're definitely afraid to be honest with ourselves about this. And it's for good reason. We're afraid of disappointment. If we really look long and hard at where we are, we'll inevitably bump up against some disappointment around that. Because you're likely like me. You wish you were further along. You wish you were in better shape. You wish you made more money. You wish you had that relationship sorted out. You wish you were touring and performing exclusively. You wish, you wish, you wish. And what I've grown to understand is that those desires are not the enemy. Those desires are actually great information to glean. But your relationship to them is what can cause you more suffering. Now, the flip side of really being honest with yourself about where you are is that you might find that you've come a long way, that you didn't used to be here. You used to be a lot less developed in this category. You used to be a lot less skillful. You used to be a lot more frustrated. You used to not be able to do this or that. You used to hide, but now you're more willing. You used to always say no, but now you say yes. I've said this on the podcast before, but one of the things I find most often in my coaching work is that I have to sort of champion people where they are. I don't have to, I want to. But the reason is because we're generally not good at assessing where we are in our journey because we don't give ourselves the time to stop, step back, and notice. But the truth is, if we actually take the time to do this, if we have a heart to heart with ourselves, if we look at where we are in relationship to where we've been and where we desire to go, we then have two choices. The first choice is to resist where we are, to feel frustrated, to feel annoyed, to feel disappointed, to feel hurt, to feel uncomfortable. And again, like I said, this is one of my fatal flaws. This is the thing that I identify in my own life that keeps me underjoyed. Is that a word? Like, I don't experience as much joy as I could because I'm often lamenting the fact that I'm not where I want to be. So that's one choice, is we can resist where we are. Guess what the other choice is? We can accept where we are. In fact, I would even argue that you don't really have a choice, but your mind thinks it does. Your thinking brain assumes that there's value in resistance, that there's value in irritation, there's value in frustration, there's value in thinking I should be somewhere else. That resistance, it takes on so many different shapes and forms. Sometimes it can be really quite violent to ourselves, like self-flagellation. What is that conversation in your head? Sometimes it can be, you dummy. What a disappointment. What a failure. You should be so much further. Look at where you are. I can't believe you're just there. or it can be quite subtle. Just like a subtle itch, a subtle frustration that is like, this is stupid. It shouldn't be like this. How annoying. Oh, I still have to put up with this bullshit. Can't believe it. That can become insidious. That can become a central way of seeing yourself, of thinking about yourself on this journey. And I would argue with you that it is the source of most of the suffering that you feel, particularly as it relates to your growth as a human in the realm of creativity, in the realm of healing, personal growth, transformation. It is at the heart of our suffering. This is specifically what the Buddha said, that suffering is caused by resisting where it is that we are. Specifically, it was thought that suffering was caused by clinging to the past or desiring something in the future. Now, I've learned that that word desiring is a little bit complicated because I actually think desire is quite useful. But pining, let's say pining after something. Actually, anything that uses the word should probably falls into this category of causing you more suffering. The opposite possibility is to accept where you are, to see where you are, and to then meet yourself with a certain level of understanding and compassion, particularly when you look at where you are in relationship to where you've been. When you look at how far you've come. Now, sure, there might be aspects of your journey that you feel like you've gone backwards. I promise that's not the case, but I know that that's the experience sometimes that our mind gives us. But I guarantee if you think holistically about your own growth, that you wouldn't choose to go back to where you were, that you can see the value of being where it is that you are, especially as it relates to the past. That acceptance piece, in my book, is the fastest way forward. But that isn't the reason that we do it. We actually do it or aspire to do it or work toward do it or practice doing it to find joy in this moment here and now. Because nothing is promised to you. Nothing is promised to you. You only have this here and now. Now, the beautiful part about finding that acceptance in this moment, looking at yourself and cultivating a compassionate sense of, man, you've come a long way to be here. If you can come here, where else might you go? The beautiful part about that is that then comes inspired action. Then comes the opportunity to really move the dial forward. It's actually the only place that clarity would come from with regards to your choices. If you are not clear and honest with yourself about your current positionality relating to where it is that you want to head and where it is that you've been, you will make choices that are fueled by anxiety and fear. You will make choices that are fueled by desperation. You will make choices that are not guided by your inner wisdom and knowing. You will make choices that are heavily influenced based on what you believe others think. I see this all the time. I do this all the time. Like I said, I'm a yes person. I'll say yes to a lot. And that's generally served me well. But it's also gotten me into some trouble along the way because sometimes my yeses came from places of, like I said, desperation. Of like, well, at least we'll do this. At least we'll get this. And I can't say that I regret any of those, but I can see in hindsight that I've committed time and energy to things and processes that weren't necessarily beneficial to where I wanted to head. They were just a way of soothing my ego in its sense of feeling like it was worthless. And I'm just at a stage where I'm really trying to get so clear and not do that. I'm trying to find my path that feels as consistently playful and curious and joyful as possible. My path that is only inspired by the reality of where I am and the personal acceptance I have for myself, the personal meaning that I ascribe to where I am right now is truly the only thing I have. It's the only thing that matters. And if I tell myself I'm a piece of shit, I shouldn't be here, I should be further, I've failed, it's too late, no one's going to accept this, it's not going to work. If I tell myself that, that is the life I will lead. That is the experience I have in the moment. And again, that comes from certain types of conditioning. It's always important to note on these things that you're not flawed because you're having these types of feelings or thoughts. And the reason I share so often about my own experience is to hopefully find a place where we can connect and relate with regards to this. Because the reason you think those things is because of your conditioning from the past, your experiences from the past. I'll give you one example. I think that maybe I've shared something like this before, but the things I tell you that I'm doing, you might know this, but they're unusual. Strange, even. I mean, who goes to like a corporate conference and just starts singing in improvisational sounds to people and then gets them singing? It's pretty wild. Or who goes to a classical music hall and gets everyone to lie down to listen to the music? That's not really music, it's just an immersive sound experience. I do. But for years, I told myself that because this path I was taking was less trod, shall we say, that people wouldn't get it, that it was going to be difficult. And I still have real moments where I feel that. I get rejected a lot. And part of the reason I get rejected is because what I'm offering, what I'm proposing is unusual. It's often outside of the imagination of the person who potentially holds the key to the opportunity. But what I recognized is that continuing to tell myself that story is a way of resisting the truth of where I am. Because while the truth might include that there's been difficulty and challenges along the way, many of which I've overcome, what also lies in this moment is possibility that there are people who have said yes to me, a lot of people. And that every time someone says yes to me, the experience we have together, it's always been positive. It's never been negative. People love this work. And because of that, because of its goodness, because I know that I'm approaching it from a place of open heartedness, from curiosity, from a desire to connect people to themselves and to each other, I have faith that the universe will continue to reward that at the speed with which I am ready. Now, it might not be the ready that I want. I just think about like the little kid on the sideline, let's say at the basketball game, who's got my energy. Put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. But the coach is like the universe who sees the whole game and understands where that kid can fit, understands where that kid will most be useful, and understands how to set that kid up for success. And as much as the kid is eager and ready and thinks they're ready, the coach ultimately knows the wisdom and the experience of all the games they've watched is the reason they know when exactly to put that kid in. And so you either resist and go, "Oh, come on, coach, put me in. Come on, I'm ready. Let's go, let's go, let's go." And potentially end up in situations that won't set you up for success. Or you say, "I trust your leadership. I trust your ability. And please know, as soon as you're ready for me, I'm ready for you." That's the conversation I have almost daily with the universe, with source, with God, whatever feels useful for you terminology wise. It's an act of surrender daily where I say, man, there's an instinct in me that does not want to be here right now. There's an instinct within me that really thinks I should be further. thinks I should be booked for way more gigs, making way more money, traveling more, connected to more people. There's an instinct within me that feels left out. But I trust you. I trust in the arc of my life, in the painting of my life, that I am pictured in the exact right spot right now. I am open to when you are ready for me to take that next step. But in the meantime, please make the joy, make the curiosity, make the playfulness, make the creativity evident to me at this moment. It's like a prayer. It's a conversation. It's a conversation with me and my inner knowing and my inner wisdom, and a sense that there's a divine goodness that drives the ship. And ships turn slowly, they don't turn fast. We don't want them to turn too fast, they could tip. But the ship of your life, it's headed in the right direction. It's headed in the perfect direction for you. And you have two choices. You can grab the wheel and try to steer it yourself, or you can accept that it's going at the perfect place. It's going to the perfect place. And in the meantime, if you stop, if you notice, if you listen, if you give yourself some congratulatory hugs about how far you've come, in that moment, I promise you'll find the next right thing to do. Now, here's the maybe frustrating news. Sometimes the next right thing to do is just to stay still, just to keep waiting. But sometimes the next right thing to do is to call that person and set up a conversation, to send that email, to write that next poem, to go practice your voice, to go to that training, to go learn some more, to go do a performance on the street. Shout out to one of my clients who routinely goes out and busks, which I just love. This person has a full-time job, they have a professional life, but when the weather is warm in Chicago, they go outside and they busk, and they do it for fun because it gives them the opportunity to sing. They play an instrument, to play their instrument. And I just love that because so often we wait for the phone call that says you get to perform on this stage. Meanwhile, the sidewalk outside their house is actually the stage. If the inspired action tells you it's time to perform, do it. You can perform right now. The inspired action tells you it's time to really hone your skill. If you're really honest, if you're honest with yourself about where you are, you'll likely be clear that you're not ready to be where you want to be. And many times that has to do with gathering more skills. Just like me standing in that room, talking to myself for hours, trying to nail this talk. I recognize, and the reason I'm being so transparent about this is I recognize that if I want to get where I'm envisioning, if I want to follow my heart's desire, I better be so ready and so good. Because half-assing it, winging it, hoping for the best, crossing your fingers, it's not the path. I know that. You know that. We all know that. The skill needs to meet the talent and the desire. They have to come together. And when they do, and the universe conspires in your favor, you will certainly be pointed down the path that is the fastest path to where it is that you want to go. Now, it's important to note that sometimes that resistance, it can masquerade as being necessary. It could even feel so common, so familiar that you think you need it. You might even convince yourself that in a way it feels good. It feels good to suffer. I'm supposed to suffer. And if that's your sense, go ahead, keep trying it. See how it works for you. Is it getting you where it is that you want to go? And if you do get where you want to go and you've resisted along the way and you've suffered along the way, are you happy doing so? I really believe that we are called to manifest our dreams, to create our dreams, to perform in the spaces that we're supposed to perform in, to create the art that we're supposed to create, to heal our wounds, and while doing so, thrive along the way. I'm not saying that there aren't difficult points in this journey. There are hugely difficult points. But one thing you've likely heard from me in the past and will continue to hear from me is that when we're in the midst of those, if we don't resist them, if we don't push back, if we don't should this or should that, what we'll experience is a sense that it is all for a greater purpose. We catch a broader glimpse of the painting that we're in. We don't try to push the brush in the opposite direction. We see that we're in the flow, we're in the stroke of it all. And so, if you have a story that you're carrying that you're supposed to suffer, it's supposed to be hard. I think about books like The War of Art and the popularity of a book like that. And there are some really useful bits in a book like that. I actually quite like The War of Art. Maybe you've read it. But the whole language around it is just not how I want to live. Do you want to be at war? Is that what you want this journey to be? I just think that this is a fundamental worldview, and I could talk about this more. I'll be careful because I actually think it's a masculine worldview too. But might I offer that it's possible to head down the path that you aspire to head down without being at war, without suffering, without that feeling of an unrelenting resistance. I told you earlier how I had this awareness within myself around these two choices. And when I had this conversation in my head, one of the things I noticed right away is that when I said to myself, hey, buddy, you can either keep resisting where you are here or you can accept where you are. As soon as I made the choice to accept, my shoulders softened. My jaw was less tense. I felt better. And the beautiful part about this is if you feel better, you're going to create better. You're also going to interact with others much better. If you operate from a place of resistance, imagine what that phone call would be like with the booking agent. Imagine what that performance would feel like when you finally get it. It's not, the bottle doesn't just suddenly let the top off and all release. I think about a bottle that has been shook up and that pressure. And then when you do pop the lid, you lose a lot of what was in the container. What if the bottle wasn't shaking quite so hard? And what if everything inside was still and easy and open and free and soft and loving? That's just the path I want to take. I also believe that this is the path to really manifesting the future that you want. The universe has given you the exact tools that you need. The universe has provided all of the exact scenarios, all the relationships. And our job is to stop just long enough, to relax just long enough to recognize and to take inspiration from that truth. And we can resist. We can keep resisting. We can keep suffering. You can keep feeling that pit in your stomach. You can keep feeling that tightness in your chest or your throat. Or you can vow to yourself to let go, to trust the process, to make the choice that feels good. Make the choice that feels good. I'm working on this myself, my friends. I'm really working on it. I want to be further than I am. I want to be booked more. I want to work more, honestly. I want to be further with certain relationships. I want to be more evolved in certain types of communication. I want to be in better shape in my body. I want to have more money in retirement account. I want to have more money in my checking account. Do you relate to any of this? But I acknowledge right here, right now with you, that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at this moment. And when I say that, it brings emotion up in me because what a relief. If I really own that as true, what a relief. So, what choice will you make? You've only got two. Do you resist or do you accept? And if you accept, what does that mean for the action that you take moving forward? All right, my friends, I love you big time. Until next time, peace.